Just let me fire this thing up here for a moment, and
Okie doke.
we'll be right with you. Oh, good evening and welcome to the After Hours show. This is your farm boy in Norway, Joe in Norway. I'll be your cook this evening, and I'm joined by Ann Lee, a retired college professor and community member at the Daily Kos. She's a member of the National Council of Independent Scholars and is a contributor to the book, The Political Economy of Art, Making the Nation of Culture. Whew. Well, that was a little rough around the edges. I don't quite have the amenities out here on the farm as I did in the city. Just kind of wrapping my head around things.
Well, you brought all your spices with you, right?
I did. I do have everything. Yes. So we all had a busy week, I believe.
It was a busy week. I'm going to rant a little bit about the Biden press conference, among other things. There's a lot of crazy crap going on.
Yeah. Well, I've been taking things a little bit more leisurely, I guess, after our move. And, strolls, taking forest strolls and things like that, walking in the mountains. And I came across these very early, 1 month early, wild blueberries.
Yum.
And I have visiting family from America who are gluten intolerant. So I'm trying to make vegetarian and gluten-free things. So I thought I would do experimental pancakes number 2.
All right. You can't try again.
So we're going to make wild blueberry, vegetarian, gluten-free oat chia pancakes.
Whoa.
It's more, I believe these are going to be like an oat and chia suspension rather than a cakey.
Are they going to be fluffy enough? I guess so. That's the question.
Well, that is the question. I'm kicking myself for not picking up buckwheat flour. All I could get is oat flour. Is there an echo? I'm hearing an echo. Oh.
I don't. It's fine on this end.
All right. So I couldn't find the xanthan gum, which is another way. We'll see. We're going to be using liberal amounts of vinegar and bicarbonate soda to create a reaction.
There you go.
Coupled with baking powder, and the hopes is that we'll get some bubbly, fluffy pancakes. If not, at least the blueberries should hold their form and give support, so they'll at least be as tall as the blueberries. We're going to try to achieve.
We hope.
We've got some red currants here as well, and they're way too early. But along with the blueberries come the cloudberries, the famed cloudberries,
Mm,
very
mm,
rare,
nice.
very exotic Northern European berry.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
the season we had such a warm in our region. We had such a warm May, end of May, that the ripening has come 1 month early, plus with something as delicate as the multa or cloudberry, it normally has a 10-day ripe period.
Hmm.
So from from the time you can pick it until consumption, it has roughly 10 days before it goes off, or even on the stem. It needs to be
Mm,
picked within a 10-day window. What we're seeing now is a 4-day window due to the change in the climate. So the plant can't adapt. So we were surprised to see them at all, but half or more were all rotten, which was unfortunate. But times are changing.
yeah.
So
Can they?
before I get to that, oh, you were gonna say something?
No, I was wondering whether you can freeze dry them or freeze them.
Sure, but the issue
Uh,
is finding them. So you have
oh,
to
I see.
hike up to a certain elevation, find a specific spot, and harvest enough because they're quite spread out.
Mm,
They're not like they grow singularly. I don't have a picture on hand, otherwise I would show you. Um, they are not bush. They're more like a singular plant with a single berry coming out. Then you got to go look for another one.
nah, right.
But before we do that, I just wanted to point people to an article and a paper recently. Oh, not that one. Let's see, where are we? Where did
While you're looking, I put up a
yes.
thing tonight that's coming out tonight in a couple of hours on kimchi wars. Anyway,
Oh, oh, that sounds interesting. What's going on there?
oh well, I'll talk about it in a bit.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so Jacobin came out
Jacobin.
with this article from a Israeli scholar, historian. I think he specializes in genocide. Uh, it was kind of hand-wringing about his coming to terms with uh, agreeing that what we're actually seeing is genocide. I think
Mm,
it's a very good perspective for people to read from what's happening internally within Israeli culture and society. But he references another important uh, academic speaking out on um, documenting these war crimes and the genocide. So
mm.
highly recommend people go check out this article. I'll post a link later in the chat. So
Genocides are always problematic.
yeah, it's very academic, hemming and hawing to,
What?
for safety reasons, which is understandable.
Oh yeah.
Um, but there's a lot about uh, people inside Israel just suppressing the reality. And,
Mm, well, plenty of denial to go around.
all right. So I'm gonna run outside. Might lose my
Alrighty.
feed for a little bit. More outdoor cooking.
Ah, indeed.
Everybody's sleeping, so I have to keep it down.
Take your time. Alrighty.
Okay.
While he's as I said, while he's going out to the barn, um, there's a kimchi war going on between South Korea and China on the issue of what counts as the proper form of kimchi. That is, some program decided to describe um, or differentiate the Korean kimchi from pot sai, which is a similar cabbage-based fermented condiment, and the South Koreans are annoyed because there's a differentiation or some sort of appropriation of this cultural item that is very popular. And so I'm posting a little piece that's coming out in a couple of hours on kimchi, and it's a minor cultural kerfuffle, and it's happened before. But the fact is, Asian cultures have a variety of approaches to fermenting vegetables, and every culture does it for all the usual reasons of pre-refrigeration cultures. And so that's kind of the current issue that is, and there is a difference, in fact, between North Korean kimchi and South Korean kimchi. No different than in any particular country. I mean, there's just regional differences, and also the availability of different kind of spices that you move forward, and cultures that age their foods are always interesting anyway. Of 100-year eggs, etc. So that's the issue.
We have a very special one here in Norway called rakfisk, which is rotten fish, I guess.
Yep.
They throw mountain trout into. Hey, kitty, we got a visitor.
Kitty, it's the kitty.
So rockfisk, you throw mountain trout in the fermentation for 9 months, and sort of throw it in the ground, sort of like kimchi. And the tradition used to be, before modern technology dealing with foodborne illnesses, it was a special Christmas treat. So you'd usually have it with flatbread and kind of sour cream type milk product, and then a little bit of the fish. And the oldest person was designated to sample the rockfisk before everybody else, and if they didn't keel over, it was good to go.
Food tasters. Yeah.
So before you get going on the Ukraine update or the rants, just like to review what I'm going to do for the pancakes. I got these lovely wild blueberries from up the mountain. We're going to fill our pancakes with those. But before that, we have to figure out our eggs, vegetarian eggs. So I have chia seeds that have been sitting in an oat milk. And just for good measure, a little bit more health and a little more ease of evacuation, I added ground linseeds. Yes. Linseeds, I think they're called. Flax seeds. I always screw that up. Sorry. Yeah. Lose my English. Flax seeds and chia.
There we go.
Super uber healthy. So we're going to grind this up a little bit with the blender on the stick. Mix it with some more milk, some apple vinegar, maybe a little vinegar, tiny bit of sugar, and I've got some oat flour, and we'll see where we go from there. Salt, also salt. Don't forget the salt.
Good luck.
Thank you. Oh, you might lose some light here. I only have one. I don't have any more battery chargers or contacts for these. So hopefully, we'll still have some light.
Okay.
While I'm grinding.
Twilight pancakes. Okie doke. Well, it's been a crazy week. The polls, the political polls, have actually moved in Biden's favor. Some of the more reputable polls, today's NPR Marist poll moved Biden by 2%. up by 2%. And this is since the um, since the press conference that was done live and covered several different mainstream networks on Thursday. There was a lot riding on it, and when you were watching it live, you thought, "Oh God, it's happening again," but it really wasn't. I mean, when you sort of look back, and it's the same thing. If you actually look at the transcript, if you look at the transcript from the original debate, you'll see that Biden actually had some very smart moments. Sometimes it wasn't fully translated by there was somewhat garbled or muffled, and that was kind of the problem. And during the press conference, he came out with a prepared statement on the end of the NATO summit, which came up fairly well. There wasn't any real kerfuffles. As a matter of compensation, Putin, made all kinds of noise, and Trump met with Orban from Hungary during the same period. And, the question in the background is whether Orban brought some message from Putin, who he had just met with, to Trump. It's always kind of interesting things of what actually goes on. For example, the Trump plane sitting on a runway next to a Russian. The Russians changed their consular staff every 6 months or something, and so they had a very large Russian state jet parked next to the Trump jet for several days out at Dulles International Airport. And that was always an interest, that they were parked next to each other. I mean, you could transfer all kinds of stuff between the two things. It raises an interesting question about airport security. Anyway, a whole other set of issues, and frankly, there should be a story on oligarchs' airplanes flying around the world, but that's another story. So that's one element. Their stuff just now, the involuntary manslaughter case in New Mexico against Alec Baldwin was dismissed because there was not so much prosecutorial misconduct, but there were denial of shared information between prosecution and the defense. And of course, it's certainly a tactical move that is often used by attorneys. But the reality, of course, is that for some reason, some ammunition that was culled from the Rust film site by at local police seemed to have been mislabeled or something. And clearly that was another issue. I think there are lots of little issues going on. There's one might refer to it as a urination contest among law enforcement agencies at the local, the county, and the state level when the Rust shooting started. Needless to say, the armorer is doing time. I think it's 18 months at least in prison. The armorer who was responsible for allowing live ammo on a set that should never have had live ammo. Needless to say, it says something about practices, creative practices on a site, production practices, highly problematic. The recent thing that sort of caused this problem, and there is some other suspicions about it's about custody of evidence, etc., and which rounds were available or not available to the defense. And there seemed to have been an anonymous delivery of shells to to the prosecution that were not part of the original body of evidence, so that there was a lot of ammunition floating around in the courtroom yesterday. That was what I was witnessing. But apparently, a lot of lawyers bailed simply because this was a problematic prosecution, and therefore charges were dismissed against Baldwin, and that is sort of moved into a different position. Needless to say, other things have been going on aside from Orban going to Mar-a-Lago visiting Trump. A variety of easy stuff going on, and a slight shift in editorial position. On the one hand, the editorial board of the New York Times called for Biden to withdraw from the election. On the other hand, the New York Times decided to run a editorial deeming Trump unfit for office. So you have, they're kind of splitting the difference there, and not necessarily that such editorials have an effect, but it is fairly clear that and this recent NPR Marist poll is slightly suggestive of the fact that much more was revealed in the debate, and that was how much crazy lying goes on from Trump. His attempt to disavow the Project 2025 is, belied by the 140 former members of the Trump administration who are allied or associated with the document and the Heritage Foundation. And of course, the release of video recordings where several years ago, or actually around the same time Trump was having other issues as president, he was announcing his support for the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. So attempting to claim that he knows nothing about it. He may not know anything about it simply because he doesn't read anything. And at 887 some odd pages, it's pretty clear that he didn't read it. And somebody probably gave him Cliff's Notes, if nothing else. So that's kind of where they are on that sort of thing. And also there's been a variety of pivoting that goes on in mainstream media. Some people were very consistent about it. On the other hand, there are 14 or 15 members of the Democratic caucus who have called for Biden to step down. A variety of folks, some backbenchers or you could call them Democrats in name only. There's a variety of folks who worry about their own elections or re-election, and so that's everyone's sort of covering themselves. That there's a fair amount that's going on. You can see that as much as everyone is trying to keep an even keel in these matters, there's a tremendous amount of time and money being spent on these sorts of things. So it's only a couple of days until the Republican National Convention, and it's quite fascinating to see the kind of usual coverage. They interviewed the mayor of Milwaukee, who's a Democrat, and he's the one who appeared just after Trump called Milwaukee a horrible city, and at the same time, the Republicans on their website used the former Saigon, that is Ho Chi Minh City, as a kind of proxy image for the waterfront of Milwaukee, which is a little strange at best. I think, in that particular case, it's probably some joke by the web company that put together their little thing. But putting in fake pictures is not uncommon for the Republicans. Anyway, they're on the ground in Milwaukee. Their Democrats are, at least the local transit authority, is trolling the Republicans by putting big graphics on their buses that will transport delegates around the city with Biden little comments from Biden on that they're pasted on the sides of these things. It's not just a little board, but the whole bus is wrapped in Biden slogans, and so that'd be kind of interesting. So yes, it is always interesting when a political party goes to a city that is dominated by the opposite political party, and so those kinds of things are going to happen. Needless to say, there'll be attention paid to Chicago in a similar way. Today's reporting is putting up 8-foot or 10-foot barriers, fences, wire fences that are going to keep people separated. And there's about I don't know, what is it, 4,000 delegates? No, 2,000 delegates. Anyway, a lot of folks are going to be running around Milwaukee, and which is a key battleground state and a swing state that is. And as we've known, the politics in Wisconsin are very complicated, messy, if anything. It swings back and forth from strange reactionary so-called populism to democratic politics, and usually hinges with respect to the recent Senate race on race as well. So that's another issue that underlies that. It's much different in one sense than Minnesota, by comparison, and Illinois, of course. So the borders of that whole sort of block of states operates kind of an interesting way. So enough of the upper Midwest. In Ukraine, Ukraine is very, very strange. I mean, there's just things going on in the background, the continuing conversations about missile technology. Another thing, analyzing how numerous 20 components in the KH-101 cruise missile, the Russian cruise missile, are use so-called Western or sanctioned products, computer chips, etc., all kinds of oscillators and whatever are use Western so-called or non-Russian chip technology. So they've been discovering, plumbing the depths of these things that are killing people, and there have been numerous there are missile attacks every darn day, and the air alerts continue every day. There's never been a day without an air alert somewhere in Ukraine. So it's people are somewhat inured to it. Some people have died because they wouldn't take shelter, which is a whole nother issue. And the thing is, the Russians launch a lot of missiles, but they're also they suffer 1,000 some odd casualties a day. So that's a whole nother thing going on. Some of the numbers are coming up, and apparently in terms of deaths, it appears to be that it's a 2-to-1 ratio of Russians dying to Ukrainians dying or killed in action. And the numbers are still a little weird, but there is slightly better training and on the Ukrainian side, and the Russians have tended to send in massive assaults. Not that many tank battles have been going on. I think that there has been this tendency to send dismounted troops after each other, and then of course there's all those drones. There's lots of the usual discussions, the attempt by the Russians to essentially tack on a pair of machine guns to what is essentially a golf cart. They bought a bunch of golf carts of these ATV vehicles from the Chinese and are putting them out into combat. They're mainly to just simply move isolated groups of troops quickly, but only in small, a couple of people can only ride these things. And so anyway, they have an anti-drone machine gun equipped golf cart. And in fact, drone defense is largely, aside from drones trying to knock down other drones, they've been using a lot of munitions, small arms to knock down drones. The problem, of course, is night flying drones, and so you need more night vision, et cetera. So that there's a lot of that going on. That The F-16s will eventually get there. One wonders when exactly they'll get there, but everything is being put in place to accommodate them. The Ukrainians actually turned down a transfer of Gripen jet fighters from Sweden, uh, simply because you got to have different maintenance stuff and other training and all that. They're great fighters, though. They're designed to land on stretches of road, very short takeoff runway stuff, and they're a little less they're designed for a Scandinavian type climate. So, but none of them, at least for now, are going to Ukraine. At some moment, they probably will transfer them once you see a more ubiquitous F-35 fleet come in place. Those look like good pancakes. I'm hungry again, darn it.
Flapjacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I quite got enough rising agent in there, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Don't forget the salt.
Check.
And
I left the stem.
Uh-oh.
We got a stem sticking out.
Demerits. It's an antenna. Anyway. So the war continues. There was an attempt by the Russians to assassinate the CEOs of a variety or executives of several defense industries, German weapons manufacturers. Rheinmetall, I think, is one of them. It's one of the biggest arms manufacturers in Germany. So there were assassination plots uncovered by the U.S., among other people. I think the intelligence community is working very hard on these kinds of things. There have been sabotage events. There's a map of a variety of arson events against military industries of one kind or another in a wide variety of places. It's not huge, but there are significant numbers of them going on, and they seem to be Russian driven. Now, noting, of course, that the overlap between the sort of Russian intelligence and the Russian criminal networks, let's put it that way. So there's a variety of activity going on that is affecting what's going on. Needless to say, it's taking a toll everywhere. There's problems in terms of financing weapons. There's lots of jury rigging of a variety of weapons as well. They're just amusing jury rigging of things, and of course the use of pretty ancient kind of technology, or using up fairly ancient rounds. This follows on that everyone's got their allies out. Both China and North Korea are supplying things, ammunition mainly from North Korea to the Russians, and with some limited success relative to the reliance on tube artillery. So that's kind of what's going on. There's continuing Russian advances, but when you hear about a Russian advance, it's usually a kilometer here and a kilometer there. So it's not exactly like they're surging over the lines. And as we've said before, and to quote President Biden, it's like 17.3 to 17.4% of Ukrainian territory is being, taken by the Russians, and it's been like that for about a year. So that just simply continues the area. There's other activity going on on the ground, and the usual activities. Following the shift to the left in France, for example, but then there's a shift to the right in the right wing in the Netherlands. This is a year. This was predicted. There's a year of elections in a variety of democracies or pseudo democracies, and so that kind of activity is going on. So the war continues because missiles are getting fired. Transfers of Patriot missile batteries is happening, uh, um, and they're very expensive. So that's kind of been going on. There hasn't been the massive attack on, for example, Crimean air defense that happened last week. This week is a little quieter. And I think there's more attention to different versions of Ukrainian air defense, at least in the publicly available information. So that went on. Now, on the American side, the Biden press conference was look at that steam rising from this.
Oh, before you move on from that,
Go ahead.
yeah, this is the critical juncture here. They seem to maintain some of their height, but this one just deflated. So I think this is the lack of gluten. This porridge suspension is not quite faring as well as I'd hoped. Maybe if I cut it half oat, half buckwheat, or maybe all buckwheat. I don't know.
More experiments.
Regarding the assassination attempts or plots,
Yeah.
did they say where they were looking to execute those?
Oh, well, in Germany, there's been a variety.
Inside Germany, okay.
Inside Germany. This is just following on the sabotage at various military plants, military industry plants, but an attempt to knock off Armin Popperger, the CEO of Rheinmetall, is a pretty big deal because Rheinmetall makes tanks, they make ammunition. They're a big deal. This is a very big deal. It's like trying to knock off the head of General Dynamics or Raytheon or something.
And I assume they might not be that far off either.
No, but you can see that everyone is trying to be secure, trying to be more secure about that. Gee, those look good. That is a nice cooker you've got there.
That one came out quite nice, quite round, perfect round.
Nice.
Yes, this is that tried and true 1940s equipment, still working.
A good thing. Oh, and it does resemble those cookers that the Koreans use for their barbecue, right? It's a kind of dome thing they use. So anyway, so wars are occurring. There's insurgencies elsewhere, stuff in Sudan. The Houthis are threatening to launch anti-ship missiles. A variety of other things going on that are scary and problematic. Trouble in the South China Seas. The usual kind of issues with the Philippine Navy fighting the Chinese Coast Guard. All those things are at work. That's just continuing. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really get covered. And going back to what Joe was talking about in terms of genocide, there's several other genocide like events that are going on in the world at the present moment that are incredibly problematic, don't get a lot of press coverage. In some cases, they don't involve a lot of people, but in other cases, it's whole huge populations. So that has become problematic. So, for example, in Myanmar, the insurgency is actually pretty powerful. The people who are resisting the Burmese government, the government troops, they're sort of afraid to come out of the cities now. So they've got they actually hold territory, which is interesting. I mean, the Burmese army has been trying to take back various areas, but there actually are insurgent controlled territories. So it does resemble similar things that have happened in Latin America, where insurgent forces actually hold territory in various places. So that doesn't get reported. Yes, like Chiapas, etc. So these are the kind of things that are going on at that are going on in those areas. So back to the press conference. It was the end of the NATO summit. I think everyone is sort of happy that that happened. The biggest problem during the debate was the first gaffe. That is, in the first question, where they were asking about the role of. It was sort of not a softball question by any means. It was a question that had sufficient conditionals in it that you could get confused. And they're asking about Vice President Harris, and the gaffe was referring to Vice President Trump, and this was in the answer to the first question, so probably not the best way to frame an entire event. Needless to say, Trump hopped on it, something making fun of Crooked Joe, blah blah blah, in the so-called big boy press conference, and making fun of the vice president gaffe. Now, needless to say, Trump makes gaffes like this in every one of his rallies. So and Biden is nothing but a gaffe machine, and he's been a gaffe machine for decades. So this is equally problematic. On the other hand, and what was interesting, and you could see the minds of journalists working when after ending the press conference, Peter Alexander of NBC News jumped up and asked about this Trump gaffe, the presser, and Biden did stop because he sort of remembered, I think, that he'd made that gaffe, and his answer, to the question of what about this sort of gaffe, he made a brief comment about how Trump lies, and suggested as a response, listen to him, that is, listen to Trump. And I think that this is this issue of the lying all the time business that was, a marked, let's put it that way. So Biden in the debate put out 9 or so mistruths, falsehoods of one kind or another, just, the bad numbers or whatever. And Trump produced 30. So just at a ratio level, I think you can see the difference. And I think the public responded to that too. So a lot of the polling was, there was a little push polling on the issue of lying, but clearly Trump was a winner in terms of lying. So the frame came back against the sort of weak frame they've been trying to place around Biden, coming back with discrediting Trump. As I said before, the New York Times editorial saying that Trump was clearly unfit for office. There was no waffling about this. They definitely didn't want him elected. So that alone, prior to the beginning of the usual national convention, party national convention kind of coronation business. And, when you get right down to it, despite the fact that George Clooney comes out against Biden, and a bunch of other folks are unhappy, but they're unhappy for all kinds of reasons, which, when we look in sort of retrospect, there weren't any real strong contenders within the primaries. And yes, there were primaries, and the Democrats, the Democrats had real primaries with real voting. I know I voted in mine, but it was the only thing I voted on. So, you can see that it wasn't exactly contestable. In my state, there was only Biden was on. I could have, as some people did, voted uncommitted. You had the choice of two things, and uncommitted was the other one, pretty much, or among many opportunities for whoever had filed petitions. And because various people both withdrew and came back, Marianne Williamson, for example. So you had, kind of strange and, strange candidates, oppositional candidates that weren't very strong, and it's unfortunate. I mean, you would think that the Republicans would at least throw a little money at that, but apparently they've been focusing mainly on the issue of a weak Biden, whatever that means. Uh, Considering that there's pretty strong international diplomacy going out, the essentially enforcing prior rules or reinforcing prior rules has brought down the contact or the crossings. Let's say the numbers are always very weird. Border crossings on the southern border, which the Republicans have spent a lot of time making a lot of hay about it. But you see, this is going to change. It's the Mexicans have changed their government, and so things are going to shift in a pretty serious way. I think, at least for the first term with a woman Mexican president. So you'll see some initiatives in that direction that will, I think, change people's minds. Needless to say, the usual discourse is going on. Swing state polling, a variety of other strange things going on, but everything is generally within the margin of error. And people just want to freak out about this and want to change, but it's pretty much a Biden decision, of deciding to withdraw, and everyone has different scenarios, withdrawing to make Kamala Harris the candidate, et cetera. And there's been a lot of attention to her, and she's been very upfront about a variety of things, speaking to her sorority association at their annual meeting, which is, if you want solidarity on that particular side of the vote, I think you're going to get it. And so that's the kind of where we are with these matters. There have been disappointments, but there's also shenanigans. I mentioned the Alec Baldwin sort of weird shenanigans going on there. There's certainly weird shenanigans even back to the delay of sentencing, which occurred. We would have had a verdict or some particular issue about whether Biden was going to be on probation or put in jail or community service or something weird, and that was scheduled for the 11th, and that just didn't happen. So everything got shifted up in that sense till September.
Biden is going to be on probation?
Yeah, that's right. Trump is clearly trying to leverage his political immunity, whatever, that his gift from the Supreme Court. So that's happening at the current moment. And it's being tested. And there was an article today that talked about all of the prosecutions against Trump are currently under jeopardy. The important one in D.C. Is sort of under risk because what counts as an official or an unofficial act, and it's pretty clear in the case in New York with the hush fund money. It seems to me that making payments to adult actresses and committing fraud is not an official act. So that's the sort of deal there. But that doesn't stop people from doing lawyer stuff. So lawfare is at work every day, and it's interesting just to see it happen. I'm sure there's somebody at a talent agency working on the Q ratings of Alec Baldwin and whatever projects he may have or hasn't had. Those are the kinds of news that we sort of look at these days. So that's kind of my little overview of where we are today. Tonight, more stuff is going to happen. I don't know if John's here to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of Twilight Zone this evening, and our showing of The Prisoner after that at exactly around 11. John?
We will have the Twilight Zone tonight.
Excellent. Excellent.
The episode stars Ed Wynn.
Ooh. Uh,
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 Herman?
Gunther
Munster?
and Tootie, Tweety, whatever. Car 54's Ed Wynn. Oh no, that's Ed
Oh,
Gwynn.
Fred
As opposed
Gwynn.
to Ed,
Oh, no,
Ed,
not
Ed Wynn.
not
Sorry.
Gwynn. No. So this is Keenan Wynn's father,
There we go.
and they were both in
No, he's
the Twilight Zone. What's that?
Muldoon and Twitty. That's it. Anyway,
no,
carry
he's
on.
not his father.
Oh, he's
No-
not his
no
father.
relation.
No
No
relation.
relation. Dark
Man, all
Hollywood.
my sources are unreliable.
You want to tell us about Sunday's Columbo?
Sunday's Columbo will be the first episode of Columbo ever to be aired. It was before it really became an ongoing series. Well, I guess you can consider it a pilot. So that's
We're going back to the old
funny.
school.
Old school. He's going to be very young looking, Mr. Fall.
Fresh-faced kid on the fresh-faced
Yeah.
rookie.
Exactly.
Oh, we're dramatically losing elevation here on our pancakes over time. Goodness gracious. I will actually be on Saturday, tomorrow. We're doing a road trip out to the coast to the island of Virunda, which is a avian sanctuary or nature reserve. Has a lot of
Nice.
nesting birds there. So we'll
Excellent.
be streaming the road trip and maybe a little bit of the hike. We'll basically be streaming until we're off grid. So I'm not sure what the coverage is like out there. It's quite remote. So we may not have it. On Sunday, that'll be 8 o'clock in the morning, Eastern, early birds.
Excellent.
I'm not sure how long it'll be. We'll be there the whole day. So we'll pop on here and there. So you can just check the Zoom. Also on Sunday, it's tentative, but I'm trying to get our neighbors who run the guest house of an old farm. It's the family. It's been in the family for generations. Well, going back to 500 AD, I believe the first woman found in a grave with the name of this place. It's a collection of traditional Norwegian farm buildings of all different types, from storing and curing food, smokehouses, sleeping quarters, flour mills, apple press, whole variety of different things. So I thought I'm trying to get a little tour organized for us. And if we can't do
Cool.
that, then we should be able to just stroll around, and they have placards which we can read and can show you a bit of the old history here. So it's been a settlement here since the 500s. Well, before, but documented from 500 AD. And that should be also early-ish, maybe 8, 10 o'clock. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out.
Thanks for all
Check the
those landscape images. There have been some really scenic
It's been
fjord images and the like. There we go. Yum.
We've got
I'm hungry.
We've got our porridge suspension in pancake form. Oatmeal.
Nice.
Oatmeal, blueberry pancakes, gluten-free, vegetarian, using chia and not linseed, but what is it called again? The flaxseed. There we go.
Flaxseed.
Wild blueberries. So
Yum.
we can break this one open to see what it looks like in terms of its fluffiness or lack of fluffiness.
There we go. Cross section. Nice.
Oh, I don't know.
Yum.
Not terrible, but not
Mm,
quite so
yum yum
saucy. Yeah,
yum yum yum.
crispy on the outside, porridge on the inside.
Yum.
Maybe.
And
Mm.
they're probably better after they set for a while anyway, right?
Yeah, they'll be fine tomorrow morning.
Good, good, good. Exciting.
We have some freshly imported brown cheese made from goat milk,
Yum.
which is
Yum.
basically the milk that isn't fit for consumption anymore for like fresh milk. They will cook down so the milk solids caramelize and it forms a kind of a dulce de leche that could be spread on bread or panakake, as they're called.
On a cookie. Yes.
Very sour and funky cheese.
Oh, yum. Hungry.
Oh, well, I
Well,
guess
we're to-
I can't kill the Zoom until I go inside. So I'll be right.
Well,
Give me a minute.
let me yak a little bit. I'll
Yeah.
continue to yak.
Okay.
Let me thank people who've chimed in during our little fest here.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, if there are any questions, we can. There's good stuff. Oh yes, the Chevron doctrine being struck down by the court, incredibly problematic. The Administrative Procedures Act is an important act in the post-war period. It's really important for the American economy, and it did expand the role of federal agencies, and and it certainly was expanded by both parties. Partially in response to the spread of things like the military-industrial complex, the rise of a kind of environmental problems that essentially come from building a wartime economy. So you can see that when you have Nixon creating the EPA, he's doing this sort of in response to a kind of growing problem that exists, both the rise of the Sun Belt and the kind of decline of the Rust Belt. All of these things are going on at the same time. And administrative agencies got pretty big. Not that they can't become ponderous. I assume that any large administrative agency is ponderous. And so people who hate, being taxed will certainly attack the IRS as being a large administrative instrument, but the reality, of course, is that they haven't destroyed. They want to destroy the tax system. But maybe that's not what we're supposed to do. Let's see other matters. Oh yes, you see the darkening nighttime pancake moving along.
I'm not so.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you're so concerned about the overturning of the Chevron doctrine. I think that Ted. I think Mitch McConnell and his compatriots will be perfectly fine specifying the exact amount of particulate pollution within a certain radius from power plants in order to not affect the health of downwind, residents. I have absolute confidence that they will be able to write that into the legislation.
Well, the thing is that the striking down Chevron means that local courts get involved, and it'll give lawyers more work, I suppose.
I was thinking that it is a full employment act for lawyers.
Yep. That's and considering the range of sort of clerk-like lawyers out there, this is you have massive lawsuits that are going to be filed, and this this cuts both ways. In other words, people who want to weigh in on things that were previously adjudicated by the agency itself now have to go to courts, and they're just going to see lobby groups of a variety of sorts. Liberal lobby groups are equally engaged in this process, and it's going to be a big mess until we get the next wave of litigation that might overturn it, that might reverse all these matters. It's a democracy. Ugly stuff can happen in a democracy.
I don't think there are even enough courts to handle it all. They're going to need more
No.
courts.
Well, what you might see is,
I mean, just stuff won't. It'll end up boggling. It'll be like, yes, this lawsuit has been brought, and 3 years from now, it'll be heard.
they do divide up their work in weird ways. You have three judge panels
Right,
and this kind of stuff. And but the fact is, there's it's going to be ugly. And it just shouldn't happen that way. I mean, it should have moved towards a better ways of controlling that. But the problem is, of course, and even if you had the APA still in more applicable, that is relative to the adjudication of specific kinds of regulation, you still have the oversight from a Congress that is, constantly making problems for those agencies simply by the budget process. We will recall from the Trump administration, the messing with the Department of Agriculture, when they moved the entire science division for whatever reason from Maryland to Missouri for no apparent reason at all. And,
we know the reason.
Well, we know the reason. They wanted to de-skill it, that is, de-staff, essentially. Why are they're forcing me to move to Missouri for no apparent reason?
Right.
People have to remember what happened during the Trump administration, all kinds of stupid things that were, had no particular rhyme or reason. And then, of course, the things that Trump wanted to make money from, that is the OMB or whatever, whether they were or were not going to move the FBI building, for example.
All right. Well,
Trump didn't like the looks of it.
Well, he didn't like it because it was literally down the street from the hotel he used to own. He didn't want to lose that revenue.
That's right, because
and he doesn't own that hotel anymore.
And he doesn't own the hotel. That's the whole other part of that. It is simply a whole bunch of things. Well, even with the Republican convention, Trump is not staying in Milwaukee. He's staying in Chicago. He's commuting in to the convention because, he'll get the benefit of Secret Service paying money to his hotel. So, this is just troubling. We're getting close to the end. Are we ready to go? Joe? That is nice. I am hungry. It makes me think
ready when you are.
It's a true international house of pancakes, Joe.
Yeah, indeed. Truly international. House of pancakes. Right. Big, thick crepes. That's what they are. Anyway, we'll try and do better next week. See you again. Thanks, everyone.